when the galaxy's greatest empire met Earth's greatest mistake. The warning signal. Admiral Creeks Valderon stood before the massive holographic display in the command center of the Eternal Dominance, the flagship of the Zephyrian Empire's most feared battle fleet. The ship stretched nearly 10 kilometers from bow to stern, its obsidian hull bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around him, the bridge hummed with the quiet efficiency of a civilization that had conquered 847 star systems without losing a single major battle. The hologram showed a small blue and green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. To most observers, it would seem peaceful, almost inviting. But the data streams flowing around the image told a different story. This world, designated as Terra by its inhabitants, had become what the Empire's analysts called an anomaly. Admiral, spoke Commander Thane Morvek, his scaled features reflecting the blue light of the display. The Intelligence Division has completed their analysis. The situation is unprecedented. Valderon's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the reports. The Zephyrian Empire had perfected warfare through mathematics and logic. Every conquest followed the same pattern: observe, calculate, overwhelm. They had never encountered resistance that lasted more than 72 hours. Their victory algorithms had a success rate of 99.97%. But this small world at the edge of the galaxy was breaking their models. "Explain," Valderon commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had personally overseen the subjugation of 37 civilizations. Morvek gestured and the hologram shifted to show data streams. The inhabitants of Terra possessed nuclear weapons, basic space travel, and primitive artificial intelligence. By our calculations, they should surrender immediately upon seeing our fleet. Their technology is at least 4,000 years behind ours, and yet, they refuse to acknowledge our authority. Our diplomatic probes have been destroyed, not captured, not disabled, completely obliterated. They seem to take genuine pleasure in fighting impossible odds. Valderon studied the tactical readouts with growing confusion. The Empire's war computers had analyzed every major civilization in the galaxy. Most species followed predictable patterns. They valued survival above all else. They avoided conflict when facing superior force, and they negotiated when defeat was certain. Logic dictated that any rational species would surrender when facing the Zephyrian Empire's overwhelming technological superiority. The humans appeared to be irrational. The impossible discovery. Dr. Sarah Chen floated in the zero-gravity observation deck of Luna Research Station, her dark hair drifting around her face as she stared through the reinforced transparisteel at the star field beyond Earth's moon. She had been monitoring deep space communications for 15 years, searching for signs of intelligent life. 3 days ago, she had found more than she bargained for. The quantum receivers had detected a massive fleet of ships moving toward the solar system. The energy signatures were unlike anything in Earth's databases. These weren't human vessels, and they certainly weren't natural phenomena. Each ship radiated power levels that exceeded Earth's entire electrical grid by orders of magnitude. Sarah pushed off from the observation window and glided toward the communications center where her team had been working around the clock to decode the alien transmissions. Lieutenant Commander James Park, on loan from the Earth Defense Force, looked up from his console with exhausted eyes. "Any progress?" Sarah asked, pulling herself into a chair using the magnetic anchors. James nodded grimly. "We've been able to translate about 60% of their communications. Sarah, these beings aren't explorers or traders. They're calling themselves the Zephyrian Empire, and they consider Earth to be in violation of something called Galactic Quarantine Protocol 47. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. What kind of violation? Apparently, humanity has been developing too quickly. Our nuclear weapons, our space program, our artificial intelligence research, all of it is happening faster than their models predicted. They seem to think we're some kind of threat to galactic stability." "A threat?" Sarah almost laughed. "We can barely get 3 countries to agree on climate change policies, and they think we're a galactic threat?" James pulled up a new display. showing intercept course calculations. It gets worse. Their fleet consists of over 200 ships, each one the size of Manhattan. Their lead vessel is transmitting what our computers have identified as an ultimatum. Sarah's blood ran cold. What kind of ultimatum? Complete surrender of Earth's governments within 72 hours, or they will commence what they call planetary sterilization. Sarah, based on the energy readings we're detecting, they have the capability to turn Earth into a lifeless rock. The gathering storm. General Marcus Torres had seen combat in every major conflict of the past 20 years. He had commanded troops in the Amazon conflicts, led peacekeeping forces in the Antarctic wars, and coordinated the defense of the orbital elevator stations during the corporate uprising. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for an alien invasion. The emergency meeting in the deep bunker beneath Geneva brought together representatives from every major nation on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists all crowded around the massive conference table, their faces illuminated by the harsh fluorescent lighting. The air was thick with tension and the barely controlled panic that comes with facing the impossible. "Ladies and gentlemen," Torres began, his weathered face grim as he activated the central holographic display. 71 hours ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected an alien fleet approaching our solar system. 18 hours ago, they transmitted a message that our linguists have successfully decoded. The room fell silent as the alien transmission played through the speakers. The voice was mechanical, emotionless, speaking in perfectly translated English. "People of Terra, you have violated Galactic Quarantine Protocol 47 by advancing beyond your designated technological threshold. Your species presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. You will surrender all governmental and military control to the Zephyrian Empire within 72 standard rotations, or your planet will be cleansed of all life. This is not a negotiation. This is an inevitability." President Elena Vasquez of the American Federation spoke first, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what they faced. "General Torres, what are our options?" Torres gestured, and the display shifted to show tactical analyses prepared by the world's best military strategists. "I won't lie to you. Our conventional forces are completely outmatched. According to our intelligence, each of their ships carries enough firepower to level several major cities. Their fleet could glass the entire surface of Earth in a matter of hours." Prime Minister Chen Wei of the Pacific Alliance leaned forward. "Are you telling us we should surrender?" "I'm telling you that conventional resistance is suicide." Torres paused, letting that sink in. "However, there may be another option. Dr. Chen at Luna Research Station has been working on a project that could give us an advantage. The hidden weapon." Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she prepared the quantum consciousness interface. The project had been classified beyond top secret, known only to a handful of scientists and military personnel. For 3 years, she and her team had been developing technology that could link human consciousness directly to quantum computing systems. The goal was to create a hybrid intelligence that combined human creativity and intuition with computational power. The military applications were obvious, but Sarah had always hoped the technology would be used for exploration and scientific advancement. Now, with less than 50 hours until the alien ultimatum expired, it might be humanity's only hope for survival. "Sarah, are you sure about this?" James asked, checking the interface connections for the 10th time. "We've never tested this system under combat conditions. Hell, we've barely tested it under any conditions." Sarah looked through the laboratory windows at Earth hanging in space below them. The blue and white marble that contained everything she had ever known or loved. "James, if we don't try this, there won't be anything left to test on. The quantum consciousness link is the only technology we have that their computers can't predict or understand." She had discovered the secret during her research into human neural patterns. Unlike every other intelligent species the Zephyrians had encountered, humans possessed what she called chaos thinking. Their minds could hold contradictory ideas simultaneously, make intuitive leaps that defied logic, and arrive at correct conclusions through completely irrational processes. The Zephyrian Empire's entire military strategy was based on predictive algorithms. They could calculate the optimal response to any logical threat. But chaos thinking was inherently unpredictable. It was the one variable their computers couldn't account for. Initialize the connection, Sarah commanded, settling into the interface. Chair. And James, send a message to General Torres. Tell him that humanity's greatest mistake might just be our greatest weapon. The Empire's confidence. Admiral Valderon reviewed the tactical displays with satisfaction. The Eternal Dominance and her escort fleet had taken position at the edge of the Terran system, well beyond the range of any primitive weapons the humans might possess. His ships' sensors had mapped every military installation, every weapons platform, every potential threat on the planet below. The assessment was exactly what the Empire's war computers had predicted: complete technological inferiority. The humans possessed chemical rockets that could barely reach their own moon, nuclear weapons that were powerful by primitive standards but insignificant compared to Zephyrian plasma cannons, and artificial intelligence systems that were laughably simple. Commander Morvek. Valderon spoke to his second-in-command. What is the current countdown to the ultimatum deadline? 47 hours and 32 minutes, Admiral. Should we begin preparing the sterilization protocols? Valderon's 4 eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. Not yet. I want to see if they attempt any last-minute desperation attacks. Their species files indicate they are prone to futile gestures of defiance. It will provide useful data for future encounters with primitive worlds. What Admiral Valderon didn't know was that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology. It had always been their absolute refusal to accept impossible odds as final. And in less than 48 hours, the Zephyrian Empire would learn why chaos thinking had allowed a young species to survive ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, and their own tendency toward self-destruction. The small blue planet at the edge of space was about to teach the galaxy's greatest empire a lesson they would never forget. The countdown begins. As the alien fleet maintained its position at the edge of the solar system, both sides prepared for what seemed like an inevitable confrontation. The Zephyrians ran final diagnostics on their planet-killing weapons, confident that the humans would either surrender or be obliterated within hours. On Earth, Sarah Chen completed the final calibrations of the quantum consciousness interface, while General Torres coordinated the planet's desperate defense preparations. Every major city had been evacuated, military forces had been dispersed to hidden positions, and the leaders of humanity had been secured in deep underground bunkers. But the real battle wouldn't be fought with guns or missiles. It would be fought in the space between logic and chaos, where human minds could go places that even the galaxy's most advanced computers couldn't follow. The countdown to humanity's ultimatum continued, and neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash upon each other. The connection Sarah Chen's consciousness exploded into dimensions she never knew existed. The quantum interface linked her mind directly to every computer system on Earth, creating a hybrid intelligence that operated on principles the universe had never seen before. Her thoughts moved at the speed of light through fiber optic cables while simultaneously processing emotions, intuitions, and creative leaps that no artificial system could replicate. Through satellite feeds, she could see the Zephyrian fleet maintaining its position at the edge of the solar system. 200 massive ships arranged in perfect geometric formations, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian against the starfield. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, designed by computer minds that had calculated the optimal configuration for maximum destructive efficiency. They were beautiful, terrifying, and completely predictable. Sarah reached out through Earth's communication networks, her consciousness flowing through the quantum channels that connected Luna Research Station to the command bunkers below. General Torres, I'm online. The interface is stable and I can access every defense system on the planet simultaneously. Torres's voice came through the speakers, tense but controlled. Dr. Chen, we're showing 23 hours until their deadline. Our conventional forces are positioned, but we both know they won't last 5 minutes against that fleet. Whatever you're planning, now would be a good time. Sarah's enhanced perception detected something the aliens couldn't see. Hidden throughout Earth's orbital space were thousands of pieces of what appeared to be space debris. Old satellites, discarded rocket stages, fragments from decades of human space exploration. To the Zephyrian scanners, it was just junk cluttering the space around a primitive world. In reality, it was humanity's greatest deception. The Empire's fatal assumption, Admiral Valderon studied the final tactical reports with growing confidence. His fleet's sensors had identified every major military installation on the planet below. Nuclear missile silos, military bases, government command centers, all clearly marked and targeted for immediate destruction. The humans had made no attempt to hide their defensive positions, which confirmed the Empire's assessment of their primitive strategic thinking. Admiral, Commander Morvek reported from his station. We're detecting unusual activity in the planet's orbital space. Several pieces of debris have begun moving in coordinated patterns. Valderon's 4 eyes focused on the tactical display. Scattered throughout Earth's orbital region, small objects that had previously been motionless were now adjusting their positions. The movement was subtle, barely detectable, but it was definitely artificial. Analysis, Valderon commanded. The ship's AI responded in its emotionless, synthetic voice. Objects appear to be space debris with primitive propulsion systems attached, likely a desperate attempt to create improvised weapons. Current velocity and mass calculations indicate negligible threat to fleet vessels. Recommend ignoring and proceeding with scheduled sterilization. Valderon nodded with satisfaction. The humans were indeed attempting a futile last gesture, just as the psychological profiles had predicted. Desperation making them cling to impossible hopes rather than accepting their inevitable fate. What the Empire's computers couldn't calculate was that those debris objects weren't weapons. They were nodes in a quantum communication network that would allow Sarah Chen's consciousness to extend throughout the entire solar system. The Revelation Doctor. Chen's expanded awareness detected something that changed everything. As her consciousness flowed through the quantum network, she began intercepting and decoding the Zephyrian communications in real time. Their language, their tactical discussions, their strategic planning, all of it became as clear to her as if she were sitting in their command center. But what she discovered wasn't just their military capabilities. She found their history, their philosophy, their entire civilization's approach to existence. The Zephyrians weren't evil in any conventional sense. They were a species that had evolved beyond chaos, beyond unpredictability, beyond what they considered the wasteful inefficiencies of emotional thinking. Every decision they made was calculated for optimal outcome. Every action was the result of mathematical analysis. Every aspect of their society was designed for maximum efficiency and minimal waste. They had achieved a form of perfection that allowed them to conquer nearly 1,000 star systems without ever encountering meaningful resistance, and that perfection was about to become their downfall. Sarah's consciousness reached out to the quantum debris network and began implementing something she called pattern disruption. Instead of fighting the Empire's superior technology, she would attack something far more fundamental: their ability to predict and respond to threats. "General Torres," she transmitted, her voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I understand now why they can't comprehend us. Their entire civilization is based on eliminating chaos. But chaos isn't humanity's weakness. It's our evolution." The impossible attack. What happened next violated every principle of warfare that the Zephyrian Empire had developed over 10,000 years of conquest. The attack didn't come from Earth's surface, didn't use conventional weapons, and didn't target their ship's obvious vulnerabilities. Instead, Sarah Chen did something no military computer had ever anticipated. She began thinking at them. Through the quantum network, her consciousness projected pure human chaos directly into the Zephyrian fleet's communication systems, not data, not code, not any form of logical information. She transmitted dreams, emotions, contradictory ideas, artistic inspiration, and the kind of intuitive leaps that had allowed humans to survive as a species despite their technological limitations. The effect on the Empire's computer systems was immediate and catastrophic. AI networks that had operated flawlessly for millennia suddenly found themselves trying to process information that couldn't be processed. Logic circuits, designed for binary decisions, encountered concepts that were simultaneously true and false. Strategic planning algorithms that required clear parameters found themselves analyzing variables that changed meaning depending on how they were observed. Admiral Valderon watched in horror as his fleet's tactical displays began showing impossible readings, ships that were simultaneously there and not there, weapons that were armed and disarmed at the same time, enemy forces that existed in multiple contradictory states simultaneously. "Report," Valderon commanded, but his bridge crew was staring at their instruments with expressions of complete bewilderment. "Admiral," Commander Morvek spoke slowly, his voice filled with confusion. "Our sensors are detecting the impossible. The humans appear to be attacking us with ideas. The breaking point." The quantum consciousness interface allowed Sarah to experience something no human had ever felt before. The moment when perfect logic encountered perfect chaos. Through her connection to the Zephyrian fleet, she could sense their artificial minds struggling to comprehend concepts that existed outside their understanding of reality. She pushed deeper into their networks, not to destroy them, but to teach them. She showed them human art, music, literature, love, grief, hope, and despair. She transmitted the memory of a mother holding her newborn child, the feeling of watching a sunset, the irrational joy of dancing in the rain. She shared humanity's greatest weakness, their tendency to make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. And in doing so, she revealed humanity's greatest strength, their ability to find solutions that shouldn't work but somehow did. The Kier. Zephyrian computers began to malfunction on a fundamental level, not because they were being attacked by viruses or logical bombs, but because they were trying to process information that existed outside the boundaries of rational thought. For the first time in their history, the Empire's perfect war machines encountered something they couldn't calculate, couldn't predict, and couldn't defeat through superior technology. Admiral Valderon felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death or defeat, but fear of the unknown. The humans were doing something that violated every law of physics, logic, and military strategy that his civilization had discovered. "All ships," he commanded, his voice carrying an edge of desperation. "Commence immediate planetary bombardment. Destroy everything. We cannot allow this chaos to spread." But it was too late. The quantum consciousness network had already expanded beyond Earth's orbital space. Sarah's awareness now encompassed the entire solar system, and she was using that reach to do something unprecedented in galactic history. The ultimatum General Torres watched from the Geneva command bunker as the impossible unfolded on every screen around him. The alien fleet, which had been maintaining perfect formation for hours, was now moving in erratic patterns. Some ships were firing their weapons randomly into empty space. Others were spinning slowly as if their navigation systems had failed. The massive command vessel at the center of the formation was broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. "Dr. Chen," Torres spoke into his communication device, though he wasn't sure she could still hear him in any conventional sense. "What's happening up there?" Sarah's voice came from every speaker in the bunker, but it sounded different now. More than human, but still recognizably her. "I'm showing them something they've never seen before, General. I'm showing them what it means to be unpredictable." On Luna Research Station, James Park watched the quantum interface readings with growing amazement. The system was operating at levels that should have been impossible. Sarah's consciousness wasn't just linked to Earth's networks anymore. She had somehow expanded her awareness to include the alien fleet itself. "Sarah," he transmitted, "your neural patterns are off the charts. You're processing more information than our computers said was theoretically possible. How are you doing this?" Her laughter echoed through the quantum channels, filled with joy and discovery. "James, I understand now. Consciousness isn't limited by the laws of physics the way we thought. Human minds don't process information, we create it. We don't just think about reality, we participate in shaping it." Through her expanded awareness, Sarah could sense Admiral Valderon's growing panic. His perfect war machines were failing not because they were being destroyed, but because they were trying to understand something that couldn't be understood through logic alone. She reached out through the quantum network and established a direct communication link with the Zephyrian command ship, not through their computers but through their consciousness itself. For the first time in galactic history, an alien species was about to experience human thought directly. Admiral Valderon. Her voice spoke through every communication system on his ship. I have an offer for you. The choice Admiral Valderon stood frozen on his command bridge as the impossible voice filled his mind. It wasn't coming through their communication systems. It was speaking directly to his consciousness, bypassing every filter and defense his species had developed. What are you? He managed to speak, his four eyes wide with an emotion his people had bred out of their genetics millennia ago. Sarah's presence surrounded him, not threatening but overwhelming in its complexity. I'm something your civilization thought was impossible. I'm chaos that chooses to be constructive rather than destructive. I'm the random variable that makes the equation beautiful instead of just correct. Through the quantum link, she showed him something the Zephyrian Empire had never seen. The view of the universe through human eyes, not as a collection of resources to be optimized and controlled, but as an endless source of wonder and possibility. She shared the memory of human children playing in their first snowfall, scientists making breakthrough discoveries through accidental mistakes, artists creating beauty from broken materials. Your empire has conquered nearly 1,000 worlds, Sarah continued, her consciousness touching every mind on the fleet simultaneously. But you've never experienced the joy of discovering something unexpected. You've optimized away everything that makes existence worth living. Valderon felt his worldview crumbling as he experienced emotions his species had considered weaknesses. Wonder, curiosity, hope, the desire to explore rather than conquer. What do you want from us? He asked. I want to offer you a choice, Sarah replied. You can continue trying to sterilize Earth and I'll defend my species using methods your computers will never understand. You'll probably succeed in destroying our planet, but the chaos I've introduced into your systems will spread throughout your fleet. Your perfect order will be contaminated with unpredictability. Admiral Valderon looked around his bridge at crew members who were experiencing emotions for the first time in their lives. Some were crying, though they didn't understand why. Others were laughing at the absurdity of their situation. His perfect military machine was becoming beautifully, chaotically human. Or, Sarah continued, you can choose to learn. Your empire has the technology to travel between stars, to build wonders that span solar systems. But you've forgotten why. Those things are worth doing. Humans can teach you to find joy in the journey, not just efficiency in the destination. The decision that changed everything. For 17 minutes and 34 seconds, Admiral Valderon stood in silence while his consciousness processed concepts that had been absent from Zephyrian thought for thousands of years. Around him, his crew was discovering what it meant to experience wonder, confusion, curiosity, and hope. His ship's computers were still malfunctioning, trying to process the chaos that Sarah had introduced into their systems. But instead of seeing it as damage to be repaired, Valderon found himself fascinated by the unpredictable patterns emerging from the integration of human thinking with Zephyrian technology. Dr. Chen, he finally spoke, using her name for the first time rather than referring to her species collectively. If we choose to learn rather than conquer, what guarantee do we have that humanity won't use this chaos technology against other worlds? Sarah's consciousness touched his with something the Admiral had never experienced before, trust based on faith rather than calculated probability. Admiral, I can't guarantee anything. That's the whole point. Certainty is an illusion that your empire has been chasing for millennia, but I can offer you something better than guarantees. I can offer you the possibility of genuine friendship between our species. Through the quantum link, she shared humanity's history. Not just their wars and conflicts, but their capacity for growth, change, and cooperation. She showed him how human civilization had evolved from tribal conflicts to global cooperation, how they had learned to work together despite their differences. Your species spent 10,000 years perfecting order, she continued. Mine spent the same time learning to thrive in chaos. Together we could create something the galaxy has never seen before. A civilization that combines logical planning with creative inspiration, efficient systems with joyful exploration. Admiral Valderon made a decision that would be remembered in galactic history for millennia to come. He opened a fleet-wide communication channel, his voice carrying to every ship under his command. All vessels, stand down from attack formation. Implement first contact protocols, not conquest procedures. We are no longer invading the system. We are establishing diplomatic relations with a species that has just taught us something we had forgotten, the value of being surprised. The new alliance 6 months later. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital station that had become the embassy between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire. The massive structure floated in space between Earth and Luna, a testament to what could be accomplished when logical engineering combined with human creativity. Admiral Valderon, who now held the title of Cultural Exchange Ambassador, joined her at the viewing window. His species had adapted to experiencing emotions with the same efficiency they brought to everything else. Though Sarah suspected they still didn't fully understand why they now found sunrises beautiful rather than just photometrically interesting. Dr. Chen, Valderon said, his voice now carrying warmth that would have been impossible for a Zephyrian 6 months earlier. Our science teams have completed their analysis of the quantum consciousness interface. They believe it could be adapted for peaceful applications throughout the galaxy. Sarah smiled, watching Earth turn slowly below them. The blue and white marble that had nearly been destroyed was now the center of something unprecedented. A galactic alliance based on mutual learning rather than conquest or subjugation. Ambassador, she replied. I think humanity and the Empire are about to give the galaxy something it's never had before. Proof that chaos and order don't have to be enemies. They can be partners. Through the quantum link that now permanently connected human and Zephyrian consciousness, Sarah could sense the changes spreading throughout the Empire. Worlds that had been perfectly ordered for millennia were experiencing art, music, spontaneous festivals, and scientific breakthroughs that came from asking what if instead of what's most efficient. And throughout human space, new technologies developed through the partnership were allowing humanity to reach for the stars while maintaining the chaotic creativity that made them uniquely human. The small blue planet at the edge of space had, indeed, taught the galaxy's greatest empire a lesson they would never forget. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that destroys your enemy, but the one that transforms them into a friend. General Torres, now serving as Earth's defense coordinator for interstellar relations, joined them at the observation window. The first joint exploration mission launches next week, he reported. 50 ships, half human, half Zephyrian, heading for the galactic core to investigate some anomalous signals we've detected. Sarah nodded, her consciousness still partially linked to the quantum network that now connected dozens of worlds. Through it, she could sense the excitement, curiosity, and wonder of billions of minds working together toward common goals. Humanity's greatest mistake, their chaotic, illogical, beautifully unpredictable way of thinking, had become the galaxy's greatest gift, and the universe would never be the same.